Good afternoon. It is Barbara, the East Coast Dragon Lady, coming to you on Easter Sunday. And it's actually decided to be spring here in the northeast. So I'm excited that we've got the windows open. It was actually hit nearly 80 Fahrenheit, which is like we went from snow last weekend to suddenly 80 degrees. So, I'm itching to get out and start planting things. But I also have to remember that it can be cold at night. So it's been an interesting week, I think, for many reasons. But if you follow me on Facebook, on my private page, I did talk about how actually just on Friday, I had to take my son into Boston. We're about an hour outside of Boston here in Massachusetts, and he had a follow-up endocrinology appointment. He is about 6 years out, actually in his 6 years, of thyroid cancer, which was pretty extensive, went into his lymph nodes. So of course we're always a little bit cautious. They did find something on a ultrasound, which he believes is, his endocrinologist believes, is just a cyst, and he says it's common. But of course, it's still a worry when something appears that shouldn't be there. So he's now got to have a follow-up ultrasound just to make sure it hasn't grown. His blood work and everything's fine, so that was good. But what was interesting to me, and it was not making sense, but it has since. Sometimes you have to sit with things. So driving in Boston, obviously, there's an international airport, and I kept seeing from the minute we hit the highway, like aircraft coming in pretty low. And as I say, we're outside of Boston at sort of lower than I normally see them. And one, then two, then three, and then I'm seeing them from the right to the left, and I'm like, wow. And as I always say, when you have more than one thing appear, and I'm big into what's the meaning behind this. Didn't have time to really look up anything at the time. Got into Boston, got out. I've actually become a typical Massachusetts driver. My son always laughs because I was always the one that just patiently drove everywhere. So I'm known as a mass hole now. So I often use a lot of profanity driving in Boston. So again, on the way out, I realized I'm seeing aircraft landing again. Everything was landing. And I do know that this is the Easter vacation in Europe. We always had the week before Good Friday and the week after. So it's like a 2-week vacation period in a lot of parts of Europe. Here I know, depending on where you live, in New England, I know next week is spring vacation, break for the kids in school. So that could have been the reason that I was seeing more aircraft, but I've never seen that many aircraft landing. That's all I can say. The wind may have been in a different direction, all that. But also, as we're driving out of Boston, in the sky was a huge dragon. Unfortunately, I couldn't take a picture. I wished I could. And usually when I see my sky dragons, they're usually in the clouds and usually white. This was, it was obviously a rain cloud. It was that color, that grayish color, but it was huge, wings open, and was landing. And if you've seen my pictures of my sky dragons, I have one that was landing on a cloud. And this, again, huge wings, huge. I mean, it was massive, was landing on a cloud. And I actually said, so what's the meaning of seeing my dragon and seeing aircraft? It's something about landing. And then I heard the eagle has landed. And I was like, I'll sit with that. So for me, and again, I can't talk about a lot of this stuff on social media, but it does to me have a military feel to it. I also looked it up, and it was apparently Neil Armstrong said that when they landed, I guess when they went to the moon, it was the Eagle spacecraft. And he said the Eagles landed. Some of you pointed out in movies, they often talk about the president when he's landed, when Air Force One has landed, the that the eagles landed. So it could have meant many things, but it was particularly for me significant seeing a dragon along with all this aircraft. So if you have ideas, some of you have already posted on my Facebook page. Whatever resonates with you, I'd love to hear, and whatever it is that's going to come forward. I don't have anything about that, but anyway, I was thinking today. I realized, so I think a lot of you that know me know that I do not. I'm not a religious person, but I certainly have felt the Christ consciousness. Actually, a week ago, maybe it was just a week or so ago, I was doing a meditation. I think it was a group meditation I was doing. And I actually saw the face of Jesus, which is probably the first time that I've actually seen that face with the, thorns, the thorns on his head. And just his face appeared. And I do have, and I did talk about this probably a year or so ago, Amanda Ellis has done the Christ Consciousness deck. It's a self-mastery, and it has lots of wisdom in it. And if you know Amanda Ellis, she's a British, she has got a lot of followers on YouTube and on other places as well. I know she's coming off some of her social media platforms. But then I was going to pull some dragon cards and some fairy cards like I have, and then I heard pull from this deck, pull from the Christ Consciousness deck, and talk about it each day. So like this week, it was all about self-love. What are we doing for it? And for me, it was, I don't know if any of you did that every day, but I posted mainly positive affirmations. Some of you shared what you were doing as well. But I think just making that little bit of an effort to say, for me, it was like, oh, I need to post something positive. I went out for a walk, and I went to a training on Monday. The week has gone by so fast. On Monday, I went to an all-day training, and again, it was a sunny day out, and I didn't want to sit for it. We had an hour. I didn't want to sit just, doom scrolling. So I'm like, I'm going out for a walk. And again, that was interesting. It was actually behind an industrial park. It was at a hotel in Billerica. And I realized as this is huge, massive parking lots, huge. And I'm like, there's not one car here. And then I realized that the buildings were also, there was nobody in them, and it was a business park. So it's sort of sad to see that, but it gave me an opportunity to walk around, to get my steps in. And again, if you've been following me, some of the messages that I've been receiving about this, like self-love and what we need to do by going out and walking, that's like the simplest form of exercise. And a lot of people have said to me, oh, I don't have time. I do some walking at home as well, which, I can go faster. But just going out in the fresh air and the sun, and I got earlier this week, I got the message about we need to just go out and bathe in the sun rays, not necessarily sunbathe, not those days where we used to smother ourselves in oil and lie out there and fry, but the sun rays and the moon rays. Again, we've had a lot of low clouds, so I haven't been able to see the moon. But, they're the times which are magical, and they're the times that we can really, get those rays. I've also started putting my amethyst out in the sun to absorb the sun, and then putting it in my, a cup of drinking water, leaving it for about 2 hours, and then drinking that in the evening. And that just feels good. I've actually finished my 3rd round of parasite cleansing, and I think this may be my last. I have to actually check in with my body. Somebody asked me how I did that, and I use a pendulum. I use the herbs, or you can just ask. You can either write it on paper or just ask your body, ask your higher self, like, do I need to do another cleanse? Do I need to do a parasite cleanse? Yeah, ask those questions. Use a pendulum with the yes or no. That's how I find it. I haven't done muscle testing on myself, but I know some people do that as well. So whatever it is, but I think definitely the time has come for cleansing. And then I also posted that I am reading the book about alien parasites, which are the archons. I'm reading it. I'm trying to thought. I did not understand what I never heard the word archons, believe it or not. And then in the group that I belong to, we talked about that on a Wednesday night, and I had many aha moments realizing the influence of the archons. So if you're interested, oh, let me find it again. It's sitting right behind me. It's Alien Parasites. I know it's probably back to front. 40 Gnostic Truths to Defeat the Archon Invasion. This is Lawrence Gallian. It's Laurence, Gallian, Gallian. It's not expensive. It was less than $20. Definitely worth reading. So, as I said, I think for today, which is Easter Sunday, and going through the next 5 days, I've actually pulled the 5 cards. The first card that I pulled was Sisterhood, the Feminine Way. And there's lots and lots of things that I've been reading on Mary Magdalene, that she was not recognized as she was portrayed as a prostitute. She was actually Jesus' equal. So this is Divine Feminine. I'm not surprised this has come up. I'm not surprised about the sisterhood message, as I have joined a group of people that we actually talk about our sisterhood and how we've connected. We all have different gifts, and we all bring them to our circle. So I think seeing this reminds me of when we do this, we often meet around, when we go into meditation, we go and meet at something that looks very similar to this to me. This is what I see when we go to our sisterhood meetings. So I'm going to read you what Amanda Ellis put out. As I said, this is a self-discovery oracle deck, so it's not one of those oracle decks that you pull cards for others, but you can use it to actually for yourself. I have used them. Sometimes I'll pull one card from these when I've been guided, but it feels fitting that as I said, when I used to live in England, which is now sort of 35 years ago, but the school calendar evolves around the church calendar because schools were attached to the church for many, many years, and that hasn't really changed. Like all of the religious holidays is when schools have, April vacation, Christmas, Easter, all of that stuff. It's around the church calendar in England because they're part of the Church of England. So even though I was brought up with, we always taught, we had religious education lessons. Yes, I am ancient, but we used to have at least weekly religious education lessons, and we had daily assembly where we all assembled and sang hymns. So it seems odd. I brought up my kids here in the United States, and they for a few years would ask, like, are we doing the Easter nativity, the Christmas nativity? Which actually, that reminds me, whenever this time of year always comes around, my older son was always very black and white, and in December, they'd learned about Jesus' birth and in a manger, and they'd done a nativity play, and then you fast forward a few months, and here we are, it's Easter, and Jesus died, and he came home from school, and he said, "Mom, that man didn't live very long, did he?" Which always has made me laugh around this time of year, because 3 months ago he was probably actually, if we were in England, he wasn't even 5, so he was probably like 4, and he came home. I always thought that was funny because you've just told me about him and now he's died. That's like 3 months, right? So I had to put him straight on that. But yes, that's always been, I love children's innocence. I still miss that because often, they would ask such innocent questions. My youngest son was always fascinated by people's hair, and he was also very loud. He had a hearing loss in one ear, so he asked me one day why one of his friend's moms had black roots. She had peroxide blonde hair and black roots, and he said, "How does she get her hair that color?" So much for my kids' jokes, right? That reminds, because the dragons often tell me what I call knock-knock jokes, and they're those sort of jokes. But so let's talk about the sisterhood, the feminine way. So this is what it says. It says, and the writing is small. So the sisterhood is highlighted, and you are asked to examine how women have both shaped you and made you who you are today. You may have been blessed with great nurturing, steerage, and love from a mother, friend, partner, colleague, or daughter. If so, take a moment to thank them and honor the bond between you still. If you didn't have such a positive influence, call on Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene to guide you to heal and teach you feminine principles such as receptivity, sensitivity, patience, gentleness, and a new way forward. Think about whether you value women's strengths, ways, and wisdoms, in turn honoring their gifts. Are you a champion for women, helping support and build them up? Or does part of you feel threatened, wanting to belittle or not be there for them, maybe triggered by jealousy, gossip, or greed? Often such lower subconscious behavior stems from having never had someone from championing us, or feeling as though there is not enough love to go around, so we might fight over it. Do you have women in your workplace, family life, or peer group who you battle with? If so, seek to bring in wisdom and peace to those relationships and for yourself. Women joining forces to change our world, birth new paradigms. Historically, women uniting arrived via times of adversity in our world, such as World War II. Women had to join the workforce to keep the home fires burning. Women also had to come together to secure the vote, and still in some countries, groups of women demand and campaign for education for their children, as well as other basic rights. To meet the deep division in our world, women need to come together again to help raise the flag for divine feminine energies, to bring in a softer, more caring world. Irrespective of gender, the feminine principles arising in us all births the new age. We may struggle with knowing how to do this and where to start, but it's via simple daily actions that we change the world. Both Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary would have worked together through Jesus' life to support his mission and bring in change. They would have shared confidences, tears, and joy. They held their own considerable light, which when combined was and still is powerful force of good in the world. When looking into the picture, you will see the softness, gentleness, and grace they both held, the sense of companionship, devoid of competition, distraction, or misunderstanding, sitting back, basking not only in the majesty of God's creation and the galaxy above, but in the appropriateness of each other. knowing they could each learn from each other as well as draw strength and comfort and inspiration. They were able to also be in silence, present in the moment, knowing that the most powerful creative force of the universe was inside them. They invite you to join their sacred circle and share stories of hope for the future. They bring forth tales of ancient lands and times, legends, myths, and more, of women of history and your ancestral line too. There is still time in the world to bond and deepen your connection with them and your own feminine energy. Allow the energy of the true sisterhood to enrich you. So I'll show that again. So this is a beautiful card. And I think that's really very true about sometimes you don't have to use words. You just know, right? It's just the being present with those people. And this is a first experience for me to actually be in a group of women. There are a couple of male energies as well. But often when we meet, it's just the females. There isn't competition because everybody's there to bring what they bring. And I find that very refreshing. And it's still something I'm learning, right? Because in this, I'd say this day and age, I certainly find at work there's a lot of people that feel that they're better than, or they try to prove they're better than, and I'm the sort of person that just sits back and is like, just get up. Well, I haven't always been, but that's what I'm learning as I have got rid of a lot of my old things. Some of that has been, this truly spoke to me about that feeling that you've got to be in competition with other women. I'm in a profession, I was a nurse for many, many years, which of course has always been female dominated, but not so much now. And I work in a state agency where most of us are women. In fact, in the area that I'm in, there's a couple of male supervisors, but everybody else is female. So I try and stay away from that sort of competition. But I will bring one of these to you each day this week. I did actually pull, I started by pulling a dragon from my oracle deck, a dragon card, and it was Mother Dragon. So no big surprise, right? I literally pulled that and I'm like, do I want to pull oracle deck up from my oracle deck? And I was like, no, go to the Christ consciousness. It's very fitting for this week. So for this week, I will be talking or pulling a card each day from the Christ consciousness deck. If I don't, there's a lot. It's, as I said, it's very small print, as you can see. I will try and do a video each day or record it and post it, just so that we've got that energy each day. The topics are going to be prayer, Judas, catalyst and soul contract, forgiveness and faith. And we've just done sisterhood. I will post them as well on my Facebook page. So I think that is it today. As I said, I have been busy. Spring is here. I've just changed over my wardrobe, which I always find exhausting. I don't have big enough space to have, my winter stuff, and so I have to change it over. But I did get rid of a lot of things. Some of them were just trash. Some of them I'm going to donate. I still have trouble in when I'm going into the summer to like, oh no, I like this, I like this, I like this. But I did let go of some things. So spring is here, so we need to spring clean. So I hope everybody has a good week. If you're off with your kids this week, have a fabulous week. I think the weather is going to be favourable. It's not going to be too hot, but it's going to be much warmer than it has been here, and wherever you are in the United States. And I'll either be posting a video every day, but I'll be back next weekend. So have a good week.